Hey guys, Fuad here from beattweaks.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to isolate or sample a kick drum from a full song. Now, this song was just a song that I found on SoundCloud and it was available for free download. You can find a lot of those kinds of songs on SoundCloud and other sources. I mean, it's amazing that artists would give us their tracks for free to enjoy and listen to, and this is a beautiful track. And when I first heard it, I was like, wow, the kick drum is so powerful. It's so punchy. I want that kick drum, right? So I downloaded the song and I'm going to show you how you can sample the kick drum from this song or any other song very easily in Ableton Live using the simpler plugin that comes with Ableton Live. Or if you don't use Ableton Live, any sampler plugin will be able to do the same thing. All right, so it's pretty easy to do. Now, I'm not going to show you how to, sample a kick drum from a section in the song where it's really easy to do. I mean, if we go to the beginning of this track and play the intro, the kick drum is pretty much right there. There's not much going on around it. Right? So isolating that shouldn't be too hard. But what if you want to isolate a kick drum from a section that's pretty busy and there's a lot going on? Maybe there's synths playing at the same time, other percussion, other things going on. So how would you isolate the kick drum from a song like that? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to show you. So let's go to a chorus section here or somewhere where other instruments are playing, and we can take a listen to that. Right, so it's a pretty busy mix, a lot going on there. So you're probably wondering, there's no way we can isolate a kick drum from that. Well, you are wrong. The first thing we have to do is find the beginning of the waveform of a kick drum. All right, so that is the first step. So let me turn the grid off so I can freely click around, not kick around, click around. All right, and let's find the beginning of a waveform of a kick drum where it's a little bit clear. Maybe somewhere right there. All right, so right there it's fine. Now what we can do is go to Edit, Split, and that will split the waveform at that where your cursor is. All right, and then we need to find the end of the kick drum waveform. Again, we're doing this by ear at this point. So probably somewhere around right there. All right, and again, we go to Edit, Split, or Command E if you're on a Mac, Control E if you are on Windows. All right, and now we have an isolated waveform. Now what we need to do is drop this into a simpler plugin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a MIDI track. Click on that MIDI track, and then drag this onto the MIDI track. And what that does is it automatically adds it into a simpler plugin. All right, so this is where the fun starts. The first thing we need to do to start isolating the kick drum, first of all, let's rename the MIDI track to kick sample. All right, so a couple of things we need to do. There's a lot of controls here on the simpler plugin. We're only going to be concerned about a few of them. First of all, let me turn the LFO off. Second of all, I'm going to select the playback mode to one shot because we are working with a one-shot sample. We're trying to isolate a kick drum sample. All right, so switch it to one shot. And the controls we're going to be using to isolate the kick drum are basically the filter controls. So we have the filter cutoff here. The filter is set to a low pass, 24 dB per octave. And the second thing we're going to need to control, if we click on controls here, we're going to need to tweak the filter envelope as well. And this is where you get to isolate the sound that you want. It's a relationship between the filter envelope and the cutoff frequency here. So the cutoff frequency is going to allow you to isolate the lower frequencies, get rid of the information that you don't need on the top end. And then the filter envelope will control how the filter actually acts in terms of the timing, right? So this allows you to isolate the frequencies in terms of time. All right, so the first thing we need to do is set the filter envelope amount. So basically what I did was I clicked on controls. If you click on sample, here's the sample. If you click on controls, this is where you can control the filter envelope, pitch envelope, LFO, and fade ins, fade outs, volumes, and all that other stuff. All right, so the first thing we need to do is set the amount to the filter envelope amount all the way up to the maximum. So it goes up to 72. All right, and now what we need to do, first of all, let me draw in a MIDI clip. All right, so let's set the fixed grid to quarter notes. And let's draw in, let's go to the beginning of the track, just so we know where we're working. And let's just draw in one kick note here. All right, and we will put that note on the C3. First of all, let's make this quarter note, C3. When you put the MIDI note on a C3, it plays the sample at its original pitch. All right, and what that's going to do, if I play this now, if I solo this kick sample, it's got a lot going on around it. There's synths playing at the same time, percussion on top of it, so that's not what we want. We want to isolate that kick drum. All right, so let us get started. First of all, let's go to the controls here. We'll set the frequency cutoff to isolate those low frequencies and the main frequencies of the kick drum. And then what we're going to do is tweak this decay setting on the filter envelope to further isolate the sample. All right, and you're going to hear what's going on as I do this. Okay, so basically we're trying to catch the most important parts of that kick drum as much as we can. All right, it still doesn't sound the way we want it. It's still not clean. It's still not there. There's also a clicky sound at the end of the sample, and we can get rid of that easily with the fade out knob here. So it's basically kind of like going in and doing a manual volume fade on the sample to get rid of that clickiness. All right, so if we go to this fade out knob here and turn it up just a bit, all right, it'll get rid of that clicky sound at the end and smooth out the sample. All right, you can still hear some stuff going on. First of all, I want to turn the volume up to 0 because right now, in comparison to the original kick in the track, this is really low. So if we play this now, okay, we can hear it better. And we can tweak these a little bit more now since we can hear it a little bit better. Okay, so right there sounds good for me. Now there's still some stuff going on in the stereo field of the sound, and what you can do to clean it up a little bit more is we can use an EQ, switch it to mid-side mode, and we can cut out all the frequencies from the sides. All right, so if I switch this to side, I can cut everything out from there, and that will isolate only the mids. Right? So that cleaned it up really nicely. So nothing fancy going on here, just a mid-side EQ, cut out everything from the sides. So there's no more stuff going on in the wide areas of the sound. So now it's completely pretty much mono for the most part. We can also go a step further to make sure that it's completely mono by putting a utility plugin or any stereo width plugin and turning down the width all the way to 0. So now this sound is completely mono. So if we take a listen to it now, all right, and there you go. I think that sounds really, really clean for a sample that we took from a really busy part of the mix. All right, and you can play around with this. Go to the beginning of the song, maybe isolate a kick drum that doesn't have as much stuff going on around it, like in the intro, and maybe you can get you can get an even cleaner, better result. But for the section that we got this kick drum from, I think our kick drum sounds great. And now that you have a sample, you can very easily export it. We have this section looped. So if we solo this, which it already is, it's soloed, the kick drum sample, we can export it. So go to File, Export, select the kick sample. It's a wave, 44/100, 24-bit, that's fine. We can export it, and it's named Awesome Kick, because I've done this before, all right? And we can save it, sure, replace. All right, and now we have our kick drum sample right there. And now we can just import it back in our project if we wanted to, onto its own audio track. If you go here, import it, we now have our Awesome Kick sample. If we solo it, and there you have it, guys. That's how you would isolate a kick drum, or as a matter of fact, you can use this on a snare drum or any kind of percussive sound that you like in a track. And that's how you do it in Ableton Live using Simpler. If you're not using Ableton Live, you can use any sampling plugin and they will pretty much do the same thing. They pretty much have the same controls. Filter envelopes, filter frequency cutoffs, and just a little bit of simple EQ, making it mono, and you are good to go.